See if he'll let us on.
Just to make sure it goes, is it?
Oh, yeah. He likes that. He likes that a lot. All right, let's see if it actually went over. It says it didn't, but it usually did. Let's see. It says we're live. How come it's not saying we're live there? Come on. There we go. It's kicking over. All right, let's record this for future generation. All right, I think we're all up. Turbines to speed. I think we're ready to go. All right, well, you know what? It's Whiskey Wednesday. And it's a good Whiskey Wednesday because Brian Nation's here. For those of you who don't know, and he's going to be embarrassed for a second, but that's okay. He'll live with it. He's a legend in the whiskey industry. So he has cut his teeth on some great Irish whiskeys that you all know. And he decided to take the family from beautiful Ireland and bring them over to Minnesota.
Yeah, where else?
Where else? Makes perfect sense. Makes perfect sense. And started making whiskey in Minnesota.
Yeah.
So I'll start with the obvious question. How's it going?
It's actually going great. It's bitterly cold, but we've all seen the bitterly cold weather in the last couple of weeks. But
I don't know anything about that.
Yeah. I mean, I met Connor today, and he told me that he had 2.5 feet of snow or something in 24 hours. We just got the cold. We got no snow in Minneapolis over the last week, but it's been really, really cold. But no, seriously, it's been great. The whole kind of excitement of moving here, being involved in building the brand from the ground up. It's been really, really exciting. And it's great to be able to be here tonight to talk about the next chapter, which is our self-distilled whiskey coming to life. So, that in itself is another exciting period in our whiskey journey. So it's really exciting to be
here. I have to ask you the question because it is one of those type of things is like, you already had a very success. You were having, I don't want to say had, because you were having a very successful career in Irish whiskey.
Yes.
What in God's name possessed you to give that up and start? I mean, is it the challenge?
Exactly. I mean, you're right. I had a fantastic role. I was very proud of the role, loved the role. So it wasn't out of a dislike for what I was doing or anything like that. But
well, obviously not, because you're still in it.
Yeah, it was the challenge of actually building something completely new from the ground up.
Okay.
I always say how many people in their lifetime get the opportunity to do that. And it was a risk. It was obviously a big risk to take. I was very fortunate that my wife was very much behind doing what we were going to do, and very forgiving. Yeah, I don't think she understood the climate she was moving to, but and the kids were excited about the opportunity as well. So with that kind of support, it was a lot easier to make the decision.
Right.
We also kind of said to ourselves, if it works, it works. If it doesn't, so be it. I'll come back to Ireland and I'll get a job somewhere. So like I was very kind of comfortable that it was a risk we were taking, but it was a risk we were willing to take because it was a challenge that was worth taking on. And I'm very happy with the way it's turned out. And I never ever look back in kind of regretting the decision we made. I think it's just been great, even for us. Ignore the whiskey, for us as a family, just the opportunity it's been given to expose our kids to a new type of culture, a new country. And then also for us as a family, we probably came closer together, being moving to a place where we knew nobody and just had to stick with each other for a while.
Yeah,
I think that made us closer together as well. So I think all in all, it's been a fantastic decision.
Now, when the concept or the conceptual thing was to sort of mix as you guys are coming over here, sort of mix the two cultures together, right? But you're also mixing whiskey together. It was Irish whiskey and American whiskey brought together, and that's how it sort of started, right?
And I suppose you look at it in a couple of ways, right? Number one was the whole philosophy was about bringing the best of Irish and American distilling traditions together, right? And whiskey making traditions together. And when you're starting out from scratch, the first thing you need to do is, obviously when you're building a distillery, is you need to have some way of financing the distillery essentially. And
Because it's not like starting a vodka distillery.
exactly.
You can't just turn the faucet on and start making it.
Yes.
You still have to wait time.
You still have to wait time, and you need to have a cash flow in order to keep that business going. So we had if we still have a fantastic restaurant and event center at the distillery, so that obviously was a good way of bringing funds into the distillery. But then you see other people going down the beer route or going down the vodka and gin route. We decided that we wanted to create a whiskey that kind of stood for what we stood for, which essentially was bringing the best of Irish and American distilling traditions together. So we started by blending, and we sourced our Irish whiskey from Great Northern Distillery in Ireland. So we sourced a 4-year-old pot still 4-year-old grain, and then we sourced our American whiskey from MGP in Indiana, 4-year-old rye and a 4-year-old bourbon. Now, that was not the initial decision. The vision wasn't that we were going to start immediately with MGP whiskey. In fact, when I started doing the blending back in Ireland back in 2020, because I couldn't move over here because of that dreaded word COVID, basically
that was a perfect time to start.
It was a fantastic time to start. Yeah, I mean, people thought I was going through a midlife crisis, but Jesus, when COVID hit as well, they were saying, and in the middle of a pandemic, you're leaving.
Of course,
it was mad. But the thing about it was, I started looking for American whiskey, and I probably started off with the concept, the kind of decision that I wasn't going to use MGP.
Okay.
Because I felt MGP was being used in a lot of whiskeys in America. But there's a reason that people use MGP,
no,
right?
I mean, that's true. I mean, they are one of the, they are a premier.
Exactly. And they have consistency. They had availability of stock and quality. So like when I started tasting some other whiskeys and looking at the different styles that were available, you tasted some great whiskeys, but consistency and availability of stock was always an issue. And for me, when you're putting a blend together, you need to have that consistency and you need to have that availability of stock to be able to grow your brand and to grow it and maintaining the taste profile. So that's where we ended up. But like, it didn't happen overnight. It was between 130 and 140 different prototypes, and whittling them down first in Ireland, then in the US. And that was all the exciting part as well,
The other part of that, equation is that, and I think you have sort of a head start on a lot of other people. You had already been blending, and a lot of master distillers have not.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like blending, a lot of times from their own stock. Yeah. Okay. That's a small batch and you're blending up stuff, but you sort of had that background of actually blending different types or different types of production whiskeys together.
Yes. And I suppose I also had I had the opportunity of learning very well from the likes of Billy Layton, who is just an amazing blender. So learning from him and understanding the process and all of that helped me a lot along the way and helped me a lot in putting these whiskeys together. So I did have a head start in that. So I had a lot of I was ultimately 23 years with Irish Distillers. So you do learn a lot in that period of time.
They usually have you do everything, right?
And that's right. That's the beauty of working in a distillery, to be honest, is that you do get the exposure in all parts of a business. And that was the thing that drew me to the distillery at the end of the day. And that's what ultimately gave me the opportunity to be sitting here tonight talking about Keeper's Heart, So that's why I'm just so proud of the opportunities I've got, and so proud to be standing here now or sitting here now talking about Keeper's Heart whiskey.
Well, okay, so we have a little bit of a surprise for you guys tonight. This is not available yet, but it will be. It will be like next week, I think, is coming out. So you guys are going to be the first to try whiskey coming from the new distillery.
Directly from the distillery.
And all of it comes from the new distillery. It's not a blend of different ones. So you want to explain to everybody what the American
so like,
and that's in slot number 1, guys.
So as I've been talking about the brands over the couple of years, I've been talking about the whiskeys that we have sourced and the blends that we've had, and they've been very, very successful. But I've always been talking to people about the whiskey that we've been self-distilling, and it will come to life one day. Well, it actually has come to life, and we're here today to talk about it. And the first release is actually an American pot still. So we've taken the quintessential Irish mash bill of malted barley and unmalted barley, and we've distilled it 3 times in our copper pot stills in Minneapolis, and then we've matured it in virgin American oak barrels. So we've created 100% American whiskey using that quintessential mash bill of malted barley and unmalted barley. What's unique about it is that the fact that we've matured it in virgin American oak barrels is that it has taken all of the spice and the creaminess and the orchard fruits of the distillate, and really the virgin American oak has complemented it so well, and you've just got a beautiful textured whiskey that we might as well taste now.
Yeah, well, that was really taking a risk because malted and unmalted, and then put into virgin oak because everybody
Yeah.
in Ireland's using
Refill barrels.
refilled bourbon barrels, correct?
Yeah. And that was and like one of the things that we wanted to do was we created a heavier style of distillate in order for it to be able to stand up to the virgin American oak barrels. But one of the things was there was still a risk, there was still an unknown. And as you learn every day, I always say every day is a school day because you always learn something new. And as this process has taken place, particularly the maturation process, there was a lot of learnings because with virgin American oak, for the first 2 years, you're getting a huge contribution of the wood.
Mhm.
And it's only really after year 2 that the distillate character begins to come alive again and begins to come out in the whiskey. And there were moments in a year and a half, 2 years, kind of going, "Oh Jesus, should we have put it into refill barrels? Should we not have used virgin American oak barrels?" But it was really about staying the course, really, and seeing the impact. And we're really, really thrilled with the outcome of the flavor profile that we've got, and hopefully you'll like it when you taste it here tonight.
The nose on this is, I know we were talking about sodas earlier, and maybe that's sort of put it in my head, but when you smell this, the nose, this is, everybody's going to get me on this one, but anyways, but you can yell at me afterwards. Did you ever have bottle caps? The candy bottle caps? Do you remember the Kohler one? All right, right on the nose, there's just a hint of that. It's sweet, and it has that sort of not medicinal. It's not that. It's a good like nose,
Yeah.
right? But it isn't. It's a herbal nose, but sweet herbal nose.
Exactly, yeah. And what I love about it as well is that there is that herbal note. There's a little bit of spice, and there's also a little bit of pepperiness coming from, even on a tingle on the nose, coming from the use of the virgin American oak barrel. But it's very much complemented by the herbal notes and the spice from the actual pot still itself.
All right. Well, I've had my first sip, and that was pretty good. I only trust my second sip. I don't trust my first one. That's delightful. It really is. That's really good. There's a long finish on that. It does give you a lot. There's a lot of spice going on, but it's mitigated. The spiciness is
isn't it?
mitigated
Yeah.
by this sweetness that lasts throughout the entire thing, and the finish is actually quite long too.
And what I love about the finish is that the finish is quite long, but it's a pleasant finish.
Yeah.
It's not one that you're saying, "Oh, I wish that just went." It actually stays and
No.
lingers for a while in a good way. I also love the textured mouthfeel and the creaminess of it, because the use of the unmalted barley always imparts a creamy mouthfeel on a whiskey. But actually, for me, it has been enhanced by the use of the virgin American oak barrel as well. I think it's brought an extra level of texture to it that is just an additional enhancement. I also find that, for me, the fruits, I always used to describe in our Irish American pot still, the pot still in the Irish American whiskey, or even in the Irish plus bourbon, but less so in the Irish plus bourbon, is that you would get a very much kind of cooked orchard fruits, cooked apples, cooked pears from that.
Sort of.
Stewed, yeah.
Yeah.
It's very funny you say stewed. I used to always say stewed. And when I started saying stewed in Minneapolis, I was told that was a negative connotation to. And I was kind of going, no,
We're in
stewed,
New England now.
it's stewed apples. Like, Jesus,
We
everybody
like
knows what a
things that
stewed
yeah,
apple
yeah.
is.
We like things that aren't maybe pleasant to look at. We have soda with floaties in it, as I like to say. So we're used to that stuff.
Yeah.
It's just like those like Vikings. They don't. What are they? Anyways,
But for me, the actual orchard fruits here are more fresh. They're more ripe. It's like
Yeah.
green apples, green pears directly from the tree. That's the kind of level of fruit from it. And I just love the way it's turned out in terms of the complexity, in terms of the sweetness,
Yeah.
in terms of the spiciness. But I love the way you described it, that the spiciness is controlled a little bit by the sweetness,
Yeah.
and I just think it's worked extremely well.
Do you what I know you used virgin oak barrels, but
Yeah.
what did you do? Did you toast? Did you char?
So
What'd you do?
we did a medium toast and a level 3 char.
Okay.
So it's quite common. It
Yeah.
was not a special
It's
type
special,
of
right?
barrel.
Right.
It was just again,
Yeah, but
and that
that's
was
replicable.
it is, and that's the point. That was one of the things for us, is make sure that when you're doing something and when you're building what you want to be a main brand in your SKU collection, that it is repeatable, that it does stay consistent,
Right.
because that's so important.
Now, is this the beginning of like sort of like the what's going to end up being sort of the core lineup?
Yeah, so the way we describe it is that our Irish American and our Irish plus bourbon, which are our blends, they will stay as our core every day.
Okay.
So they're priced to be, a regular cocktail, mix in a
Right.
cocktail, all of that, right? Then we have our American pot still that we call core premium. So it's still going to be a core SKU for us, but it's going to be a little bit higher priced. But
I'm going
still
to
a
tell you though,
very
it's not crazy
yeah,
though. I'm
exactly,
looking
yeah.
at the price points. It's
Yeah,
not crazy.
it's not, and we
I would
intentionally
I would have
did that.
really had a problem. You come in like how much is that gonna be? Oh, it's $100.
Yeah.
I'm like, you gotta be
Yeah.
kidding me, because that's what I mean. A lot of people do stuff
And
like
that
that.
and that's the problem with doing
Just so
that.
you guys know, it's under $50.
Yeah.
This is under $50. What you're trying right now.
And the reason we did that, and the reason we chose to do that, is we want to make sure as many people get the opportunity to taste it, number one,
Right.
and hopefully we'll go back and drink it on a regular basis.
Right.
We could have quite easily come in here and say we want to put it at $70, but we know we're then moving away from, we're putting ourselves into a certain tier that people won't be drinking it and people won't be buying it, and that's ultimately what you want to do, is you want people to buy it.
Well, here's the other part of that though, too, is I think for you, this is 4 years old, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a couple different things that I've noticed over the years. All right. So 4-year-old rye, that's already in the mature level.
Mm-hmm.
4-year-old bourbon, a lot of times, is not.
Yeah.
And you get some of that graininess in that, especially if it's done at the wrong, like ABV.
Mm-hmm.
Like people push it and like they push it, and all of a sudden it's not quite there, and it has that grainy sort
Yeah.
of feeling. That's not good. I think this, by using that malted and unmalted barley, I mean, I've had 4-year-old, I don't know, malted barley and stuff like that. That's tasted just fine.
Yeah.
Just fine. I think the malted and unmalted barley at 4 years old, I don't see an issue with this at all.
No. And look, we were tasting this at 3 years,
Yeah.
and people would say, would you release it at 3 years because there's an opportunity to get another SKU out there, all of
Well,
that.
it's also money.
It's
Time
also
is money. Time
but,
is money.
But like, there was no way we were going to do it, because for me, even that extra year has
Changed.
brought it to the point where you can say, I'm happy to stand over
Right.
that and say, this is a whiskey that is suitable to release to the public, and people would be able to enjoy it.
It doesn't matter what, like Momo's like I think. What do you guys think? You like it?
Well, that's great.
Yeah. It doesn't suck.
It doesn't suck. Well, that's
Yeah,
a good answer.
Only in New England do you use a negative for a positive, right?
So
That's-
yeah,
that's
so
really,
that-
it's not-
And just one other thing about it as well, it's the first of a trilogy of releases. So next year we're actually going to release a triple pot distilled rye.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so that's been maturing since it's over 3 years at this stage. So we will be releasing that next year, and then the following year, our intention, again, monitoring the way maturation goes and all of that, we're going to be releasing a triple pot distilled bourbon.
Okay.
And it's back to the philosophy of bringing, triple pot distillation back into the kind of the realm of
Now,
distillation.
but is this one going to stay all the time?
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
These are all,
Okay. Oh, they're
and
gonna-
they will all be continuous
Okay.
releases. Yeah.
So
yeah.
yeah, you're going to keep. I got a question for you though. You did the rye, the triple pot rye.
Yeah.
So typically Irish distillers don't deal with rye.
Yeah.
How is that?
Well, the first thing
Because
is,
rye could be I've heard horror stories
Oh yeah, it can be a
from,
disaster.
yeah,
It can be a complete disaster. So the first thing is, when you're dealing with a lauter ton, you can't put it through a lauter ton because like this release is going to be 100% rye. So what we did was we did a grains on fermentation like
right,
you would normally do in the US. But as a result of doing that, then you're bringing the grains into your pot still, into your first pot still.
right,
So that's not something you normally do in a pot still as a grains in a distillation.
right.
So
Everybody
we,
understand that they'll actually make the beer, and the beer will go in as a liquid. There's no grain in the pot still, but you're moving the grain into the pot
yeah,
still and
because
actually fermenting it in there. I
you,
mean, not fermenting it, but
distilling
distilling it.
but you can't because rye can be such a viscous grain
Gum
to
up the
deal with. It will
worst.
gum up everything. So you couldn't put it through a lauter ton, which is separating the liquid from the grains. So we brought it directly across into the fermenter as a grains on fermentation, which is so common in the US. But then bringing it into a pot still, there's always a risk that if you, depending on the heating system that you have, is that you can burn the grain can burn on in the pot still and give a burnt note on the first distillate, which you will never remove in the second and
Yeah.
third distillation.
Once it's there, it's there.
Once
It's
it's
like
there, it's
burning
there.
a pot when you make like sauce, like tomato sauce.
Yeah.
You throw the pot away.
Yeah, it's
Because
just,
it'll always end up being in every
and it will
system
change
batch.
everything.
Yeah.
So what we did was we redesigned our pot still so that we had external heating on so it was a
Like jacketed?
recirculation.
Was
No,
it-
not
no,
jacketed.
no.
So we actually recirculated because jacketed would still cause you a problem.
Okay.
The most important thing is that you have what we would describe as turbulent flow rate. So a very fast flow rate going
Okay.
through the heating mechanism so that you don't get the opportunity for burn on to occur.
Okay.
And so we did that, and that ensured that there was no actual burn on notes or burnt notes coming through on the distillate, which was a big step because if that happened, we were screwed. You
Yeah.
could like you
throw it
never
away.
get rid of it.
Yeah,
It would just be it would just not.
Well, that would
turn
actually ruin some of the equipment.
Oh, it would the burn on would ruin
Yeah.
equipment, but the note itself
Yeah, it would
would
stay.
ruin the whiskey.
Yeah.
So it's been a journey in that as well. In that again, it's trying to evolve the process to make sure that it suits the process that the style that we're dealing with.
I'm gonna get the question anytime, so I'm gonna do it. Triple pot distilled, American pot still. So using unmalted and malted and unmalted. And this one is done. What's the ABV on this?
This is 92, so 46.
92, 46. Did you get that, Lisa? Okay, thank you. Sure, I get that right out there. It's good. I really like this. This is fantastic. I'm very congratulations.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Congratulations. It's really good. And if it wasn't good, I'd tell you.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
I know. Why do you think? Why do you think I've been sitting here going, "Oh Jesus, I wonder what he thinks of it."
It's good. All right. But you got a lot of other stuff we got to try tonight.
We do,
but,
yeah.
but like we started like when we were deciding how to put these in, we did them by flavor components and ABV. Just so anybody else out there is trying to figure out why we did them in this order. And of course, this put the American pot still first, which
yeah.
was the new thing. A lot of times we'll finish with that, but we wanted you guys to get the full all on.
And generally we would finish with that, but I was saying we were doing 6 whiskeys, and I was kind of going. By the time it comes to the sixth
Six
whiskey,
whiskey, yeah.
People may not just. So he said we start with that first. So the next whiskey we're going to talk.
Save some of that. No, I'm just teasing you. Save some of that so you can try. No.
So the next whiskey we're going to talk about is our Irish plus bourbon, which is our blend of Irish pot still, Irish grain whiskey, and bourbon.
Okay.
The
92 proof on this one.
So keeping the same proof as the actual pot still. So this was our second release from Keeper's Heart. And where the first release, the Irish plus American, which we're going to get to taste the 110 proof version of later on. The first release was very Irish whiskey driven. So you had a lot more of Irish whiskey notes, and it was more an Irish whiskey forward in order to kind of, I suppose, entice Irish whiskey drinkers to this style of whiskey. The Irish plus bourbon then, on the other hand, was more bourbon forward. And the reason we did this is that, to entice more American whiskey drinkers to this style. But American whiskey drinkers, and I think I said this the last time I was here as well, is that you're particularly bourbon whiskey drinkers, they're very loyal to their bourbon, right? Mm-hmm. So to try and get them to change is quite difficult. So we kind of tricked them by literally it's all bourbon on the nose. It's only really when you get to the mid
Right.
palate that you get to appreciate the Irishness. But the interesting thing about the bourbon is that the bourbon has a 21% rye grain inclusion in the mash bill. And the reason I went with that type of bourbon is I felt that the rice, the level of rice spice that you got from the grain in that actual distillation kind of complemented some of the pepperiness coming from the Virgin American oak influence on the bourbon.
Okay.
And I think it worked well. And that enabled it to work well with the pot still as well and the grain whiskey. So it's number
Number
two.
two.
So if you nose the whiskey, I just immediately, it's just bourbon all day for me. It's not, there's no Irish. I don't get the Irish on the nose. Maybe if it sits in the glass for a while and it begins to warm up, you do tend to get a little bit of the herbal earthiness.
I almost get like a little citrus though on the end of it.
There's a
little
slight bit, but not like,
no, not
anywhere in your,
yeah.
and then take a taste.
Now you taste the Irish.
Now you taste the Irish. The Irish comes to life, and it's been turned out to be a great surprise for bourbon whiskey drinkers, the majority of them anyway. When they taste it, it's something that they didn't expect to taste in their what they would have perceived to be just a bourbon. And I think that's great because it has drawn a lot of attention to the whiskey from bourbon whiskey drinkers, and that in itself has kind of given Keeper's Heart a little bit of a boost in the whole bourbon whiskey kind of forum. So that's what we wanted to achieve, and it just gives us another opportunity to bring more whiskey drinkers across to this style of whiskey.
No, I think that's a really good idea.
Yeah.
When we first tried this, this was one I was just like, I love the mid palate on this one. I love the finish on this one, and it is that this was where it starts to go that like white pepper, but I also get some citrus at the finish too.
Yes.
On this one too.
And I like to see, what I like as well is in the finish, even though it's only peeking through, you have a little bit of a barley cereal note, which means that the pot still is present,
Right.
which means that the pot still is following all the way through to the end. And that's important for me to kind of make sure that the Irish follows through from the mid to the end,
Right.
even though it was missing at the beginning.
Right. What do you guys think? Yes? Yeah.
It's good.
Really cool. I love the diversity too of the flavors.
Yeah.
I mean, I think, I don't think you and I intentionally did this, but the diversity of trying that American pot still first and then trying this.
Oh, yeah.
There's a wide swing of
Mhm.
flavors. They're both good, but for different reasons.
Different reasons, exactly. And that's the beauty of having a portfolio as well, is that you're appealing to different taste profiles and different drinkers from that point of view. And you'll see a change again now because we'll be moving on to a totally.
Well, what do you like? What do you think? Like, what are you thinking? Like, I seen, and I like a lot of these, so I'm sort of torn. Where I'm like, I like them all, and then, but I'm looking at it, it's like there's gonna be a wide array of whiskeys, and for a small like growing company, sometimes that can be a little bit overwhelming,
It can be.
and it can be difficult for like your guys out there to like stay focused on like certain brands and stuff like that. Is there any concern?
Oh, there is, and I suppose for us, right, one of the things that we want everybody to focus on, when we want our distributors to focus on, and we want our own sales team to focus on, is that our core, right, is our Irish plus bourbon, which is this one,
Which is what we were.
our Irish plus American, then the 86 proof, and it'll be the pot still.
Yeah.
The other ones are extensions. So you've
Right.
got the 110 proof, which is an extension of the Irish plus American. You've got the cask strength, which is an extension of the Irish plus bourbon. The other thing that we learned a lot, I mean, we're only in business since effectively we put whiskey on the shelf in, say, August 2021. So we're officially on shelf in 4.5 years. Say.
Right.
One of the big mistakes we made was when we went out very, very early, there was a lot of people looking for single barrels from us, right? And we probably did between 22 and 23 we probably did somewhere in the region of 600, 700 single barrels. For a distillery of our size was
Right.
quite
It's
a
a lot.
right?
Right.
And one of the big impacts it had, even though it brought our name out a little bit more, one of the big impacts it had is it started to slow down our sale of our core. Because when you sell a single
Yeah.
barrel to a liquor
No.
store, they're holding on to 42 cases,
Right.
whatever, and they want to get rid of that inventory before they bring in other inventory. So we learned a lot from that. So we have actually pulled back a lot from our single barrels. We've reduced the numbers down.
Right.
We still do it, but we're doing it in a more focused way that it's not going to impact the core in a negative way.
The problem with a lot of American retailers in single barrel programs is one, a lot of them don't know how to sell a single barrel. That's the first thing.
Mm-hmm.
We learned the hard way. We started very early. We were one of the first
Yeah.
adopters of single barrels, and then we went to micro batching. We went to blending. We did all this thing. Is learning how to sell that, because at the end of the day, the single barrel is supposed to put focus on the brand and not the single barrel.
Exactly.
So I've seen people make mistakes where they've actually taken the core lineup out off the shelf to sell their single barrel. I go, that's not the reason. That's not why you're here. This is supposed to be, this is to say, like, oh my God, we get something totally different. Now that you've tried that, you should try the rest of these,
Yeah.
because they're beautiful.
Exactly.
And I think that is a trap that a lot of people, a lot of retailers get into. And I'm glad, like, you're sort of seeing it and going like, okay, we need to cut back on that. We need to change
Yeah.
that. We need to go that route, because that is a significant problem. And if you don't educate enough from the wholesaler and the retailer down, that creates a problem.
Oh, it does, and like it's a trap. It's a trap on both sides,
Yeah.
because it's a trap for us as well, because we say,
I
oh,
like,
we're
we're
selling
barrels.
42
Right.
cases into a store today. That's fantastic. But what good is that if you're coming back 18 months later and they've 22 cases left and they won't take in your core? That's the type of learnings that we've got. And you're right. We could have just said to ourselves, okay, we just keep doing what we do, and
Right.
but we decided to cut back intentionally with that reason in mind. Not to say we won't do single barrels, but we will do single barrels to specific people, specific customers, and also we'll do them for, if a chain has 20 stores and they want to do a single barrel, it's a lot easier for someone like that to sell 2 cases per store than to actually sell 42
Right.
cases from one.
Well,
you know?
here's I've cracked that nut.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I've been getting suppliers and distillers to sort of look at is going like, okay, well, instead of selling like me a single barrel,
Mhm.
okay, and then I have 40 something cases and I have to figure out how to move that. And of course, the immediate thing for a retailer is like, it's not moving, drop the price. And then you keep dropping the price, and all of a sudden, like, you didn't make any money.
Yeah.
You didn't make anybody. That's not good. You've actually cheapened the brand. Okay. We don't want that to
Yeah.
happen. Right. So one of the things that we've been talking about is doing a single barrel for a state or a region.
Yeah.
And so that you go to like independent stores that would actually know how to sell these, right? And you divide it up and you do it geographically.
Yeah.
And you say, okay, everybody's going to take, let's say, 6 cases. So it's sort of like
we've done it. We've
Yeah.
actually done it in a few states, and it's something that does work extremely well, and that works for people that are happy to take bottles of single barrels when they know that a store in another part of town is going to have it. But as you say, geographically done well. Problem is, if you've got somebody that is looking to have a one unique barrel,
Yeah.
and you're kind of saying, okay, but, and I've no problem selling it. Connor would sell no problem to a person, but like, to your
He's
point,
treated like that.
yeah,
You know
he
that,
is.
right? Yeah, he is.
Yeah. But I love him.
Yeah.
But
I love his spunk.
but the thing about it is that you're trying to make you don't want to say no, but you also want to make sure that the support for the core remains when that happens. So that's the,
Well, you also have a responsibility. And I said, like, you almost have a responsibility to make sure that no one hurts themselves
exactly.
when they're doing it, because I've seen people pick a barrel and here's the pitfall on that they liked,
Oh yeah,
but it's not what
What
their
the
customer would
liked,
like.
yeah. Yeah.
And all of a sudden you end up with 40 something cases of that you can't sell because there's not enough people that like what I like.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And then they go, well, it didn't sell. I go, I know, but I told you that it wasn't going to. You got to be careful.
Mm-hmm.
You got to be careful on that type of stuff too.
And it is important because, well, number one, when you're selling a single barrel to a retailer, first of all, the retailer should know more than anybody else what their customer wants.
Exactly.
And
They
the
should be
retailer
tasting
should
for
be
the
tasting for their customer.
customer. Exactly.
And that's something that it's interesting, when you've done it over a number of years, you see people and you're kind of saying, yeah, I'm not sure. Like, are you sure your customer
Yeah.
will like that? Are you sure your retailer will like, or your customer will like that? And 9 times out of 10, the penny drops and they say, actually, yeah, maybe. And
Yeah.
they sometimes, and it's good to bring somebody else with you, then it's not just one person. And then the kind of penny drops and they look a little bit outside of their own taste profile. And that generally works. Then people do get to sell the barrel. But
Absolutely.
there is an element, like there's work in selling a barrel. It's a hand, in a lot of cases, it's a hand sell.
It absolutely is.
It
And you
absolutely have to be prepared to
liquid
do that.
lips.
Exactly.
And in hand selling that and getting everybody else to literally drink the Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
Because they have to know before they leave the store, have to know in like an event like this that they like it.
Yes, exactly.
That makes a big difference. All right. We went down a huge rabbit.
We did.
And I know we did. I hope you found it at least halfway interesting. Sorry. That's when you get two geeks together and start talking about stuff that we have to do. All right, before we lose them,
Yeah, we better move on to
let's try the next whiskey.
Okay, sorry guys.
They drank their whiskey already.
Yeah.
Guys, keep talking. Yeah, that's all right.
So the third whiskey we're moving on to is 100% Irish whiskey. It's a single malt. It's 10 years old. It's actually from Old Cooley Distillery. And we got this through Great Northern Distillery because those of you would be familiar with Great Northern know that John Teeling, who was the previous owner of Cooley, owns Great Northern Distillery. So we were able to buy some Old Cooley Distillery stock. And I love the Old Cooley style malt because it's a real old traditional malt. It's got some fantastic flavor profile.
The nose on this is insane.
And to be honest, we could have just put this in a bottle and sold it as it was. But again, wanted to do something different, wanted to make it a little bit of our own and put our mark in it. So we decided to finish it in Malaga wine barrels. So Malaga wine is a sweet Spanish dessert wine. And I love Malaga wine. And I suppose I got to love Malaga wine because of Yellow Spot. I love the influence of the Potzel and Yellow Spot, of the Malaga wine and the Potzel in Yellow Spot.
We've actually done a barrel in Malaga. Malaga barrel. Yeah. I can't remember which one. Somebody will come up with it, but
okay.
We've done some oddballs.
Yeah, but
they're so delicious.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
And like
you don't see it all the time.
You don't. And that was the other thing. It wasn't something that's used on a regular basis. And one of the things I wanted to do was malt whiskies, particularly older malt, when you compare them against the pot still, there's not that same level of creaminess or texture to the mouthfeel. Sometimes they can be a little bit drier. So what I wanted to do was add a little bit of texture to the mouthfeel by bringing some of that Malaga wine honey sweetness into the overall taste. And this was only between 3 and 4 months. We kind of had it 3.5 to 4 months finishing in the barrels. And what it did was it brought a beautiful honey sweetness, honey-like texture.
It's almost like a honey tea.
It is, and
like
it brought a
little
almond nuttiness as well,
yeah,
which
really
is lovely. Good. So when you nose the whiskey,
I can't tell you guys to go drink more Malaga because it's super hard to find it. No one drinks that.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know who drinks it. I think they just make it and dump it out.
Well, I tell you this much, actually, if you go to Malaga, if you've ever been to Malaga,
if you go to Malaga, right? That's all they drink.
And you go to, there's beautiful tapas bars there, but there's one amazing tapas bar called El Pimpi. I should get actually,
you should get money.
I should get promotional money for El Pimpi. But that is an amazing space. And I was drinking Virgin Malaga wine after I came back from Minneapolis in 2020, after I went in January just to visit it with my wife to see where there was a place we could move to. And we needed a bit of heat, so we went to Malaga. And that was where I made my final decision to come and join O'Shaughnessy Distilling. So it has a nice memory as well to have the Malaga influence in the whiskey for that. So that's just a little bit of a side story. But anyway, it's a great place to go.
What do you guys think? Right? You can taste that influence on there. It comes across more on the palate than it does the nose, which is really weird too.
It does, but for me, it's great
In the
because
finish.
it's appreciating, like what I love about the nose of it is it's really appreciating the malt, the actual malt character of that coulis malt. And then it's the sweetness comes alive and the texture. Then you're getting the almond nuttiness. There's a lot going on
It is.
in the
As we
palate.
say, a thinking person's whiskey.
It's a thinking person's whiskey, exactly. Yeah, absolutely.
Lisa, that one's 110 because it says it right on it. All right. Well,
No,
okay.
that's 86
No,
proof.
no, this one is. No, the 10
10-year-old, yeah.
Oh, it's the 10-year-old.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah.
It's 86, Lisa. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I screwed it up. You got to you got to
Lisa,
you got to
stick-
race us. You got to race her over there.
Lisa, stick with
Oh,
me.
it's
I won't
crossed
put
out.
you
I
wrong.
ruined her notes.
I won't put you wrong, Lisa.
That's delicious though. I like
It is, isn't it? Yeah.
really nice.
I mean, that was recognized in 2023
That won an award.
with the San Francisco International Spirits Competition as world's best Irish whiskey for 2023, which was for us was amazing. And the funny thing about it was it wasn't available in Ireland when we won it, but about 3 weeks later it was. We made sure we got it over there fairly quickly. So yeah, to get recognized by the San Francisco International Spirits Competition is something, you know,
That's very good.
yourself,
Yeah, that's
it's
right.
great to get
Right.
it. So
That's one of the harder ones.
yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
All right. So we tried number 4.
Yeah, so number 4 is the 110 proof.
That's 110.
So this is our Irish plus American, which is a blend of Irish pot still, Irish grain whiskey, and American rye, but it is at 110. So as I was saying earlier, that version, which was the Irish American, was that Irish whiskey forward. So there's a lot more of the pot still herbal earthiness. You get the initial kick of rice spice, but it's mainly the herbal earthiness that comes forward on the nose. What I also like about it as well is that because it's the inclusion of the Irish whiskey, it doesn't drink like 110. It has all of the flavor of 110 proof whiskey, but it doesn't drink like 110, which, you know, it's dangerously good because you could be sitting down drinking a lot of it and then jizz when you wake up. When you stand up, you'll know you've had it, you know.
Oh, sure, you could stand up.
Yeah, when you could stand up, you just might
Maybe.
not, you might just fall back down again fairly quickly. But I love the nose of the Irish American because of that kind of inclusion of the rye initially, and then the herbal earthiness of the pot still that comes through as
It's
well.
all over your tongue. I mean, it's
Yeah.
just everywhere. And it's that
especially-
warm feeling. It's like what like I like to say, it warms your heart, but it doesn't choke the chimney. You know,
That's
because
a
it's
lovely way of describing
so
it, actually.
you know
Yeah.
you feel that warmth in there,
yeah.
but it doesn't like there's none of that.
No, there's none of that.
Yeah.
No. And a lot of that is down to the inclusion of the Irish element, because the Irish element brings down a little bit of the burn, but
Right.
keeps all of the flavor and it concentrates all the flavor. And that, to me, is what you really want. You don't want an overly burn. You just want the flavor concentration there.
Well, I find with Irish whiskey, it shows barrel character more because it's that lighter whiskey. So the wood influence actually shows up more.
It does, but it depends as well, because sometimes, you know, what I find is like if you look at some whiskeys, some Irish whiskeys that are really distillate driven, they're intentionally so they're put in a second fill barrel in order
Right.
to make sure that there's minimum of the
Right.
of the wood. But you're right, they can show us some of the wood character.
That's why I think I like the finish. Like a lot of times, like when you did the other one, you did the finishing on it.
Yes.
The finish is really sort of
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's we'll talk about the finishes as we get onto them, because the idea of the finish is to give an enhancement of the flavor of the whiskey, but also to maintain the DNA of the whiskey. Because if you change the whiskey completely, that people don't
Yeah,
realize
you want it
that's
to
deep in heart.
overrule it.
Exactly. You don't
You don't
want that to
that.
happen.
It's gotta meld.
Exactly.
What do you guys think of that one? Is there any that I'm just curious? Anything you don't like? I mean, not so far. I think that's pretty. I think that's a good sentiment, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
You're doing something right, kid.
Yeah, for a change. Do you want to move on to the next one?
Yeah, let's try the next one. Number
So
5.
the next one is number 5, and this is now as I describe, this is the Americano, the Irish plus bourbon, and this is the espresso, the Irish plus bourbon cask strength. So we've moved from 92 proof to 118 proof. Exactly the same
18,
blend.
he said 118.
118. Yeah, I didn't say.
I'll translate.
Yeah, yeah.
118.
I'm lucky I have translators here because sometimes, Jesus, it could go horribly wrong. Especially there is a part where you talk about malting, right? When you talk about malting grain and you say when the malt begins to chit, and there's a lot of confusion when I say chit. So I have to get that. I have to spell it and everything. So, I'm glad I have somebody to
There you go.
translate for me.
I'll translate it wrong. Don't worry.
So this is the cast strength version. And
Okay.
as I said, exactly the same.
They all saved a little bit of that so they can go back and
Yeah,
see,
and,
right?
but it's important because it does, like, the whiskey is different. There's a different taste profile in the whiskey. I love to see the difference. Again,
And that's like one of those type of things. That's one of those type of things that a lot of people don't understand is the influence of ABV on the flavor profile. Everybody just thinks it's just some more alcohol
Yeah.
and that's going to make it burn. It's going to do this or that. There's a whole different thing. And there's a big decision that you have to make when you're bringing it even to 110, because I know it's probably higher than that.
Yeah.
So it changes the whole profile and you have to know like what you're presenting at that profile.
Absolutely, because like when we were doing the first high proof whiskey we were doing was the Irish Plus American, and we brought it to 110.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, we were going to go out at cast strength, which was in the region of 118, 119 proof. And I just felt it didn't work.
Right.
And bringing it down to that 110. And how it came to that was we actually started using it before we even released it as a whiskey to go and market. We used it as a comparison for people when they were tasting the single barrels at 110 proof.
Okay.
And when we were tasting single barrels, people were saying, can we just get the 110 proof non-finished? We're going, no, we don't actually release that. No, no. And we got so many questions about it. We decided let's do a batch of 110 proof and see how well it goes. And it did go extremely well. But I guarantee you, if you tried it at 118 proof, you'd have gone,
not so
no.
much.
And people think that that 8 proof really make a difference?
Yeah.
But it did, because it went off kilter in terms of the level of burn versus the level of flavor you were getting. It just didn't work.
Became
It
unbalanced.
became totally unbalanced. So that's an important kind of piece when you're doing it. Not just say, oh, the higher the better. It's not always the higher the better.
And people always, since you've lived in America long enough now, we can talk about this. Is that we're the land of extremes. We like things extremes. We like, how much hops can you get into our beer? How much peat can you get into our whiskey? And it always goes to these like way out amounts. But the problem is that when you start doing that, it's too much of a good thing. Okay. And as you drink, I find anyways, is that I tend to drink more of the whiskeys that I find balanced than the extremes.
Yeah. And
the extreme one's nice every once in a while, but if I'm looking for something to sit down and really enjoy, it's usually the balanced whiskeys that I come back to.
absolutely. And the other side of that is, as a distiller and as a distillery, you talk about, trying to stand to a certain brand. Like, we could be like nutty professors in our distillery every day, creating all of these different extremes and different styles of whiskey. But at the end of the day, nobody will know what you stand for. And, even you even commented, with the number of SKUs that we have even now, are we concerned about there's confusion or there? And that's why we wanted to make sure that when we focus, our focus will be on the Irish American, the Irish Plus Bourbon, and the triple pot distilled whiskey.
You want to get that DNA.
Yeah,
this is who we are.
Exactly. And you can do limited releases, but you have to be strategic in the timing of those limited releases as well, because if you bring everything out at the same time, it just becomes creates noise and it creates confusion about what does the brand stand for.
I agree with you.
So
Definitely.
it's something that we've kind of tried to control, and that's another reason why we brought the level of single barrels down as well, is because you could see you could look at the number of SKUs we had developed, and you're kind of going, Jesus, in 4 years, like we need to be careful of this.
We need to start picking and choose. Like you start looking at it and go, I got to pick this one.
Yeah,
pick and choose them.
Yeah,
right.
you have to. You have to.
All right, the last one we have is actually the one, right? Is our barrel.
It's your barrel, yeah.
So,
So the way the single barrel program works, right, is we would work with a retailer and essentially try to curate a whiskey to the flavor profile that they want in terms of, what style of finish do they want with Irish American as the base. And when we started off doing these programs, we started very kind of risk averse, I suppose, and we were using, everybody had tried a stout barrel, so we tried the stout
right.
barrel. We brought Surly's our next door neighbor. We brought stout barrels over from their Surly Darkness Russian Imperial Stout. Absolutely fantastic taste profile that came across to the whiskey. We started using Virgin American Oak, and we started using refill rise. I was probably in the opinion at the time that the refill rise may not actually work. They might not give enough of an influence.
Right.
But I was actually very, very wrong in terms of what they did. I was also very wrong in maple syrup barrels because I hadn't a clue about maple syrup. It's not that we use maple syrup in Ireland. And I never realized that a lot of maple syrup was finished in barrels. And one of my distillers, Chris Silver, asked me, "Will we bring in some maple syrup barrels?" And I kind of looking at him, going, "I don't know." And then he says, "We'll get four." I said, "No, we'll get two." And we started actually using the maple syrup barrels. First few weeks, nothing happened, but then after about a month, you started to get a huge influence. And I was afraid that they were actually going to overly kill
Right.
the whiskey and become like a liqueur. What it actually turned out was that probably became one of our best sellers of single barrels was maple syrup barrels. And the beauty of it, as we got braver, we were able to finish it 9, 10 months, and it didn't turn out to be like a liqueur, because that was always my concern, that you'd lose its whiskiness, you'd lose its DNA. But it
The
worked
other,
out
yeah,
well.
and the other part of it too is they can get, if you're not careful, they can get the things that's all you smell.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it becomes overwhelming.
But
I mean,
and that's always my concern
Yeah.
with a single barrel, that it goes in one
If you
direction.
ever want some really good maple syrup
Yeah.
barrels, we can help you out.
Okay.
Like a Sugar Shack that works very closely with us.
Okay.
He is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Their maple syrup is probably one of the best on the market.
Ah, interesting. Because
So
we got ours from
up here in New England,
Yes.
not
Okay.
somewhere.
All right.
Where
Because we got ours
Minnesota,
from Bliss in
where
Grand Rapids, and they were amazing. And it works so well for our whiskey, my
we go way
lovely
older.
Bliss.
The trees over here are just different.
But back to this one, I mean, the refill rye. What I loved about the refill ryes was that refill rye barrels. What they did was they enhanced obviously the rye influence of the whiskey, but they brought a lot more of the rye spice back into the whiskey that you're only getting an initial kick of in the original Irish plus American. And I really feel it works extremely well.
See what you guys think of this one. I'm going to. He's got a couple things. We actually, speaking of maple syrup, we actually had some in during COVID, and they ended up being up there so long in Vermont and stuff. My buddy calls me and he goes, "These might have alcohol in them," because it's just like it was in there for a very, very long time. And it was a Knob Creek barrel. I remember the fact it was a Knob Creek barrel, and it was like that's what it was. That maple syrup was like it was like unbelievable.
Yeah, I can
Yeah.
imagine. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but it was fun. What's great is each one comes out different
Yeah,
depending on what barrel you give
What
them.
do you
What
exactly?
you use.
Yeah.
Them and
Yeah.
did like Four Roses ones came out very like herbal. They had this really great herbal flavor to them. It was
Interesting, yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
So it really did depend on what you put in, like what
Yeah.
barrel we gave him
Yeah.
to use, which
And
was really interesting.
as I said, I really had no notion about maple syrup being finished in barrels, but like the maple syrup that does come from the barrels is fantastic as
Yeah.
well. Like, so.
We get some of that. We'll give you some of that before you go today. We've done all well. We actually just talked about um we're not doing fishkey. No, we'll never do fishkey.
Fish.
Have you ever heard of fishkey?
No, what is it?
It was whiskey aged in herring barrels.
Oh, Jesus. Right. Okay.
They did a Brooklotti Asian. I actually have a 375 of it. You know what? You remind me. I need to do. I was gonna do a program called "The Pleasure and the Pain." of like all good whiskeys.
We
and
know
really,
which one
really
not to
bad
fall
whiskey.
into.
Yeah, that's the bad side. But I think I'm just going to do one called The Pain and the Pain
Yeah.
because I have some really cool ones that
But
went away.
that wasn't released. It was just a trial, I'm assuming.
No, I have it. It was released.
What was released?
Yeah, it was released.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's called Fishkey.
Jeez, right.
It's
Okay.
Bruichladdich in a herring barrel.
Wow. Okay.
Should never have been released. Just letting you know that right now. Not like this. This is the lock and key one. This is delicious.
It is lovely, isn't it?
Yeah. Now, in all honesty, I will tell you the sort of story behind this barrel was meant for somebody else. And we work closely with you guys here and stuff like that. And the young gentleman in the back came with me and said, I got a problem. I said, what's your problem? He says, well, I got this barrel and it's not going where it should go because we had a little bit of an issue. And I'm like, yeah. And he goes, are you looking for a barrel? And I go, well, let me just give me a bottle. Let me try it.
Yeah.
And say, I said, we'll see if it's, people pick weird things and we're very picky about what we pick. So we tried it and go, yeah, this is great. We can sell it at this price. Perfect. Let's go. And that is the barrel you're trying today. So usually we've done that a couple times. Usually we call them stolen. So we've done that several times or found or stuff like that. But this is originally a barrel that was meant for somebody else that we ended up through a twist and turn of events that we end up with, and we're very proud of it. We
Your
love
lot
it.
was their gain.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's funny too, because we always talk about when we're picking barrels and stuff like that. We don't play Moneyball. We play it. We don't look for certain things to buy.
Yeah.
We just want to try the whiskey, and the whiskey will tell us which one to buy, right? So we've had many instances where people have walked over barrels that we've picked to get to something that they think they need.
The right one, yeah.
It needs to be from that rick house.
Yeah.
It needs to be that old. It needs to be this mash bill. It needs to be this. It needs to be that. Well, no, that doesn't work that way.
Mhm.
And we'd rather try everything blind
Absolutely.
and just go, okay, I
Well,
like
then,
that.
then
I
you
like that.
then you can
You're being
make-
honest.
Yeah, exactly. It allows you to make a better choice, and
Yeah.
you're not distracted from what you see before you. You're
Exactly.
actually, yeah, exactly. I think
Exactly. So
That's the way to do it.
well, listen, this has been fantastic. This is like an amazing lineup. I know we're missing a couple, so there's a couple more that we're going to have, and we should be having you for Go Whiskey. We're doing Go Whiskey Week, so we're going to do you're going to do both. You're doing the meet and greet and the Grand Dram. You are now.
He is no,
Anyways.
anyway, that's the best way to ask him live.
He can't refuse me now, can he?
It's recorded, Connor.
At the end of February, we have a big whiskey festival, and they're going to be there. So some of the ones we may be missing, and we'll definitely going to obviously go. The American pot still is going to definitely
brilliant. Thank you very
be
much.
high in mind. I want to thank you so much.
No,
I
thank
really
you
appreciate
too.
it. Thank you.
Appreciate
Thank you.
it. Thanks
So,
a lot.
anytime you want to come back, really, anytime.
No, it was a pleasure.
All right, we're going to say goodbye to everybody on Facebook Live. If you ever want to see this again, Cousin Vinny puts it out on It's the Liquor Talking. Look for It's the Liquor Talking on wherever you get your podcasts. And we actually have a YouTube page now that you can go to, and you can watch and listen. But you can also pick this up wherever you get your podcasts too. So I want to thank everybody for listening to us today. But the real thing is, you should have been here because it was awesome. And we'll say bye to everybody on Facebook.